Well, hello, students in Old Testament 1, and this is our 7-minute summary of Wednesday's class. Amazon, set a timer for 7 minutes.
7 minutes, starting now.
But I feel like I need to go someplace else, and so I would like to take you on a journey with me right now. Let's go. Okay, that's great. This is where we need to be. So we're going to do our 7-minute summary of Wednesday's Old Testament class. And we're going to start off by looking at this strange list, which is the 613 laws according to Judaism. Now, these 613 laws are not scholarly discussions by Old Testament scholars. These are what Jewish tradition has been passing on for the last 2,000 years. And honestly, I'm not super a lot of them. A lot of them have more Jewish tradition than have biblical understanding. But some of them are very helpful. So I'm going to do a quick one, number 9, to listen to the prophet speaking in God's name. So what I'm going to do, let me just explain. I should show you. Let's just walk through this. All of these are commandments that more or less, they're all in the Torah, but some of the commandments are not what these say they are when you actually look at them. And so there are ones about food, about value, about farming, about charity, about ceremonies, about the 70th and 50th year practices, really interesting, about Levites, sacrifices, Passover, festivals, offerings, rituals, common crimes, laws, killing others, slaves and hired workers, protecting people and animals, using money. And we go through this, parents and children. We go all the way to the end here. And let me show you down to the bottom down here. Right here, look, 613th law. All right. Now I'm going to show you now remember, this is more Jewish than it is really biblical. There's a lot of Jewish tradition here. Let me just show you what we've got. We've got these categories. Sacrifices, about God and other gods, which isn't just about God and other gods, by the way, about marriage. Look at that. 54 of the laws are dealing with marriage. You can see how critically important family is in God's understanding. Judges and courts and religious festivals and Sabbath and food, etc., etc. And you go all the way down here. These are all the subjects, more or less, that they have in these 613 laws. So to a degree, not perfectly, but to a degree, if you looked through all of these laws, you would get a pretty good feeling, fairly good feeling, about the laws that are in the Torah, but not perfect. I'll be honest, it's not perfect because it has a Jewish mindset. Okay, we're going to go back to the beginning of this, I hope. It's slow because we're in outer space. Everything is slower in space. You're floating. Okay, so we go to Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 15. And I'm just going to show you this very interesting passage. And I need to switch you on to that one. Let's do a new share. We're going to pop over to Bible. Okay, so here we go. We'll spend just a few minutes on this and then just a few minutes on the other. Moses talked about that God, the Lord your God, will raise up for you a prophet like me from among your brothers, and you must listen to him. You can look at this at your own. This is talking about a Jew, not an Arab, a Jew, just so we get that clear. Also, it's very important as you look at this. This is really talking about two different things. First, it's talking about rules for prophets. And he has a very strong rule. In verse 19, he says, I will hold accountable whoever does not listen to my words, that he, the prophet, speaks in my name. So we have a responsibility to listen to the prophets. And I want you to notice that he says, who does not listen to my words, that he speaks in my name. So when Isaiah says what he says, it's God's words. When Daniel says what he says, it's God's words. So secondly, I also want you to notice that a false prophet is someone who speaks a message in God's name that God has not commanded him to speak. That's in verse 20. So just keep these two rules in mind about prophets. Now, since I only have less than 2 minutes, I'm going to pop over to the next passage, which is in Leviticus chapter 18. We spent most of the class period, or at least a good portion of it, on this very uncomfortable passage. It's about sexual relations. And it's really important because the people of Canaan were depraved and disgusting as far as their sexual relations go. And it was a very, very key part of their religion. And because of that, God had to have specific rules about who you can marry and who you can't marry. And we don't have time to go through this chapter, but if you have questions about cousins and those kinds of things, it's all here. As far as I can see, the real heart of this whole chapter is that you figure out who you can marry and who you can't marry based upon the one flesh relationship. And this one flesh relationship between a father and mother means the child cannot have sex with the mother because that shames the father and defiles the one flesh relationship. And that just kind of carries out everywhere. Sisters, same thing with sisters, because sisters share in the father's and the mother's one flesh. You can't have sexual intercourse with your sister. You can't marry your sister. And so, and it works that way out. Can you marry first cousins? Yes, you can. You can do that according to this. And so the one flesh seems to be the influencing thing that kind of lays everything out. Okay, so what do I need to know? I need to know that there are passages in the Old Testament that explain family relationships that are still true for today because they're dealing with one flesh, and that hasn't changed. Uh-oh, my 7 minutes is up. Have a great weekend, and may God richly bless you in all you do.